YouTube, what's your major malfunction?
Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm happy. Relax. I'm not mad at you. But I do have 5 more things to talk about. 5 more things. And if I look, we got a little bit of everything today. A little bit of everything. So, first thing, as usual, in most cases, because I read a lot, is a book. Another Marvel one. This one from the series called School of X. So it involves Professor Xavier's school for the mutants. And it is called The Siege of X-41. The main character kind of in this book, like there's a whole bunch of them that are involved and get kind of equal airtime, but kind of the main one they're following is a new mutant named Josh Foley is his last name. And remember when I was talking about that Outlaw Relentless book a number of reviews ago? I mentioned she picks up a new mutant along the way that that she kind of takes under her wing, and who was bad, who used to be bad, and he continues on his involvement in the series. And so he's Josh is the main character in this book, and that's who Outlaw took under her wing. He, growing up, he was in an anti-mutant league or group or whatever cult, until his own powers manifested, and of course all of his anti-mutant friends turned on him, and so he was kind of he became bad because of that. He fell in with some bad guys, which is what happened in the Outlaw book, but she kind of redeemed him at the end of it and saved him, and he helped her as well. So she sees the good in him. So he is sent to a not the Xavier's school, the one in New York or wherever it is. They have a satellite location, I guess, and I believe it's in Canada, but I can't remember if it's like in Alberta. I think it's Alberta. Either way, it's one of the prairie states, or sorry, provinces. And so he goes to this school, but of course everybody's like, well, he used to hate mutants and now he is one, and we're just supposed to like accept him. Like, he would have tried to off us before, right? And now he thinks he's one of us. And Josh is just like, yeah, I know I was an asshole. I want to change. I don't care if you believe me. Like, I know you're not going to. So he just kind of gets by at this school. Soon enough, though, his one of his teachers, a mutant named Karma, who is kind of pissed at him for his attitude and his unwillingness to really do anything at the school. She and a bunch of other students, including Josh, she says, I've got a mission for you guys. It's just a training mission. It's nothing major, but you're all going to work together. We're all going to go to a place where that's going to make us all uncomfortable, because our powers aren't really suited to this type of scenario. So basically what they're doing is there's this station deep in the ocean called X-41, which is near the lost city of Atlantis, where the Atlanteans live. And it was kind of a research station developed by Beast, where they could do some work, but also kind of have relations with the Atlanteans down more close to their domain, sort of thing, right? But it hasn't been used in years and years. But every so often they have to send a team down to make sure it's still in an operable state, I guess, right? And do any repairs and whatever. So they basically go down to this station. There's a bunch of people. There's Grey Malkin, Nature Girl, Karma's along with them. A guy named Vic, who is really opposed to Josh. Like, he's Josh's biggest hater, and the two openly are at odds with each other. And there's a few other ones too. Triage. I can't remember the rest. But basically they get down to the station, and it's really eerie, of course, but they settle in, they start doing stuff. But soon enough, some weird stuff starts happening, and they end up getting attacked by almost like underwater kind of zombies, sort of thing. And one person that joined them on this mission was an Atlantean named Crosta, who's kind of been outcast from his people, but they wanted to have an Atlantean representative there, so he's the one they chose. So he's been helping them out, and these zombie mermen seem to be attracted to him especially. So basically it's kind of a real action-filled book, where this small team of mutants on the station kind of have to fight off these zombie mermen, figure out what the hell's going on, and at the same time deal with tensions within the team. And also their leader Karma seems to be making really weird decisions and almost kind of losing her mind a little bit. So there's some sort of outside forces also pressing on the minds of the mutant team down there. So there's all these different factors at play. So they have to basically just work as a team and get past them all and solve this mystery, because there's something more afoot than just zombie mermen. There's some sinister force driving it all, and it all comes to a cataclysmic conclusion. But as usual, I'm not going to totally spoil the ending for you. Next up, I was so excited for this. So excited. As you all know, I've been buying Star Wars DVD sets from like Malaysia and Singapore and all that sort of thing, because you can't get them, you know, here. Because of the whole Disney Plus streaming monopoly sort of thing, which is ridiculous. You should be able to buy all these things on DVD if you want to, because I don't want to pay for Disney Plus for the rest of my life just to watch Star Wars or Marvel movies, right? Like, bullshit. So you got to go to extreme measures. But this, of all the TV series I was looking forward to, this one probably the most, and it is Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is only 6 episodes, this series, and it takes place about 10 years after the events of episode... Here we go again. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan is firmly ensconced in the Tatooine desert. He's working at this like meat, kind of outdoor meat plant sort of thing. He's kind of been beaten down. He's lost his connection to the Force, you know, after Order 66 and having to go into hiding. And of course, Uncle Owen doesn't really want him near Luke, and all he wants to do is make sure Luke's okay. And so he's just leading this miserable existence on Tatooine, which is a miserable planet, right? But soon enough, he's going to be drawn out of hiding because the group of their name has suddenly left my mind. Oh God, the Sith that tracked down the Jedi after Order 66. I can't remember their names. This group is basically hunting for rogue Jedi still 10 years after the fact, and one of them, a third sister, I think her name is, has the Inquisitors. The Inquisitors, that's who they are. One of them has a bit of inside information on Obi-Wan Kenobi and what some of his motivations might be. So what she does to draw him out is the Inquisitors come up with a plan to have Leia, I'm so sorry, Princess Leia Organa kidnapped from her home on Alderaan, and have like Bail Organa, who was a friend of Obi-Wan's from before the Clone Wars, I guess from the Clone Wars time, kind of come to Obi-Wan to help him, because they figure that's what's going to happen. Plus they have some inside info on the whole history of who Anakin Skywalker was and who he is now. So there's a lot of wheels turning here with their motivations for getting Obi-Wan kind of out. And I won't spoil that for you, because it's pretty cool how they know this. So basically, Leia's just a little girl at this point. I forget how old she is. She's, 10 years old, I guess. It's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, when they were born. So she's about 10. Oh. And so they kidnap her. Bail Organa comes to Obi-Wan and is like, you gotta help me. You gotta help me. And Obi-Wan's really reluctant at first, until the Inquisitors show up on Tatooine, hunting for a different Jedi, not Obi-Wan. This Jedi is trying to flee and save himself, and he comes to Obi-Wan for help. He doesn't know Obi-Wan's, he does know Obi-Wan's a Jedi, or suspects it, or something, I can't remember. But Obi-Wan kind of declines, and then later on the Inquisitors catch up to him, and I think they kill this guy in front of everybody, sort of thing. So that finally steels his resolve to say, you know what, I'll help you find Leia. I can't keep moping around, right? So basically the rest of the series is just him tracking down Leia, rescuing her, and then having the Inquisitors come after him, figuring out how they know him, how they know his connection to Leia and everything. And then, of course, you all know Hayden Christensen is in the series, so you all know, even if you haven't seen it, that yes, the real Man in Black comes back, and he is awesome. That's all I'll say. Darth Vader is my favorite character of all time from anything, and to see him in a lot of these episodes and be pretty badass and, you know, come face to face with Obi-Wan again, is just fantastic. So I was looking forward to this series the most of them all, and it has been my favorite of them all. I love The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian's amazing, but there's just no, for me, when Darth Vader is involved, it can't be beaten. It just cannot. I love Anakin. I love Darth. He's just my favorite. So what are you gonna do, right? Your favorite's your favorite. Next up, saw this movie a number of times when I went to the stores, and I was like, why haven't I got that yet? Like, these are two of my favorite things. Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Like, of course I'm gonna get this. Animated movie. Story is that the Turtles have come to Gotham City because Shredder has come to Gotham City. He's up to something, and of course they want to stop him. One night, Batgirl sees the Foot Clan break into this research lab, and they steal some sort of device, newfangled device, and Batgirl kind of informs Batman and said, yeah, I saw these guys stealing this thing, and then I saw 4 meta-humans involved as well, which were the Turtles. So Batman's kind of on the case. He's going to investigate it. And they end up meeting Batman. The Turtles end up coming face to face with Batman along the way, and they end up fighting, and everybody has to slink back at the end and separate. And eventually the Turtles decide to kind of investigate this whole Batman thing. So they actually find, their way to Batman's Batcave and infiltrate it while Batman's not there, and they're having fun with all of his shit and everything. And then Batman and Batgirl show up and everything, and they're like, what the hell are you guys doing here? So a fight's about to ensue again, but then the Turtles manage to convince him that no, we're here to save the city and save it from our arch enemy Shredder, who's here trying to do this and that and the other thing. So eventually they all figure out they're on the same side. They start working together, and basically what's happening is Shredder is working with Ra's al Ghul in the League of Assassins. And so Shredder's been promised the use of Ra's Lazarus Pit, which basically keeps you alive forever. And in return for access to the pit, Shredder is helping Ra's to obtain a device and a method of basically infusing, like covering Gotham City basically like with a mutagen bomb and turning the city into just mutated freaks all around, right? So, and you know, in Gotham City lies Arkham Asylum. So can you imagine if like Joker and Bane and Two-Face and Poison Ivy and all those guys end up becoming mutants, right? Like, God knows what'll happen, and you might just get to see what happens when that happens. So really cool team up. It's pretty short. I think it's only like less than an hour and a half. So it's a pretty quick watch. Good animation. It got some humor involved in it. Lots of good action. Yeah, and I mean, it's Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, there's very few franchises that can say they're better than the Turtles and the Batman. There are some, but not a lot. So when you get them both in one shot, you're winning. Next up, speaking of the Turtles, finished this game a short while ago. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection. This kind of came out of nowhere. all of a sudden I saw upcoming games, and then like a month later it was released, sort of thing. It's basically a compilation of the earliest kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles console games and arcade games. So it contains 13 games in total. A lot of them are repeat games. Like, for example, let me see if I can remember all the games that are on this. You have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters, which is basically like a street fighting style game with in the Turtles universe. There's 3 versions of that game on the disc, one for the NES, one for the Super Nintendo, and one for the Sega Genesis. So they're all similar yet a little bit different depending on the console, right? So you got those 3 games on there. 3 that are different, that aren't repeats, are the 3 games that are for the original Game Boy. So you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan was the first one, and then Turtles 2 Back from the Sewers was the second one, and then Turtles 3 Radical Rescue was the third one for the Game Boy. So that's 6 games right there, along with the Tournament Fighters. Then you had the rest were all on NES, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis. There's 2 arcade games. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game. There's NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and original arcade. So the original TMNT arcade game. Then there was the only other arcade game on the collection was Turtles in Time, I think it was, from the arcade. And then you run through the consoles. You've got the original Turtles game on NES, the first one. Then you've got the second Turtles game, which is basically a recreation of the Turtles arcade game, is what the second one was. And you'll have seen from all my gameplay footage of this collection exactly what I'm talking about. Then there was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 for the NES, which was the Manhattan Project, I think. And then number 4 was Turtles in Time. I think that was Super Nintendo. And then there was the Hyperstone Heist for Sega Genesis, which I think is just the Turtles in Time, but labeled something different because it was for Sega. So I think that's all 13. I may have missed one here or there. But you get my point. It's all either NES, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Sega Genesis, or arcade. All the earliest systems and arcade games. So I'm a huge fan of the earliest consoles. Like, the NES is probably my favorite console of all time. Super Nintendo and Sega really have something to say about that. It's really close, but those 3 by far are my favorite 3, the earliest ones, right? So to have all of these games in one collection and be able to play them and make save points along the way, it was just huge. It was so much fun. I was able to beat all the games and experience them all, because I mean, I own the cartridge of the OG Ninja Turtles game on NES, as well as the second game, but I never had Turtles in Time, Manhattan Project, Hyperstone Heist, Tournament Fighters. I didn't even know existed before I got this collection. So a lot of the games I had never played. I did have the original, the first game for the Game Boy on that cartridge. I might have the second one, but I definitely didn't have the third one. So again, there's more games, plus the arcade versions. You know, you can't have the arcade machines in your house unless you pay big money for them. So, you know, the bulk of the games on this collection, well more than half, I had never played before, or only played at somebody else's place, right? And never got to experience for myself at home. So this was well worth the money. I think it was only, like, when it was brand new, it was only like $39.99 or something like that. Like, it wasn't a lot of money. And considering you get all those games for that price, it's a really good deal. Now, there is some repeat, like I said, like Tournament Fighters. You got 3 versions of it, but they all have their little differences, and you earn trophies on them, right? So you've got the incentive to play them. So they did a really good job with this collection, and it's been one of the favorite games I've played in recent past, just because I'm such a Turtles fan and such an old school gaming fan. So it was basically right in my wheelhouse, right? Last thing, this was a digital download on my PS4, and this game originally came out for just PC and Xbox back in 2005, I think it was. And the name of the game is Star Wars Republic Commando. Republic Commando follows the career of a squad of clones called Delta Squad. They are what are ARC troopers, advanced advanced recon commandos, something like that. I can't remember, but either way, they're not just the basic clone troopers. These guys are beefed up. They've had more training. They got their specialties. They are more versed in different types of warfare. They're just the ultimate clone kind of thing. So you take control of the squad's leader, whose nickname is Boss, and then you also have Sev, Fixer, and oh shit, I forget the other guy. There's a fourth guy, and the story basically starts at the Battle of Geonosis, at this very start of the Clone Wars. You are tasked with hunting down Sun Fac, the leader of the Geonosians, and kind of executing him and helping to, cut off the leadership head of the Separatists and the Geonosians. So you enter the fray at the Geonosian arena, and so you assassinate him, and then you go spoil the inner workings of a droid factory, and you just work your way through Geonosis with all these different objectives you're given to try and shut the clone or the Separatist army down as well as you can in this opening skirmish of the Clone Wars, right? So there's basically three kind of separate story chapters in this game. That Geonosian one is the first one. The scene then shifts later on down the road. I'm not sure how much time passes, but you are investigating a derelict Republic cruiser called the Prosecutor, I think it is, something like that. So this thing's been lost in space, and you find it, you go to investigate it, and it's kind of like a ghost ship at first, until all of a sudden you run into a bunch of Trandoshan pirates for all intents and purposes. And so you battle through the ship, fighting these pirates off and trying to get the ship up and running so that its turbo laser batteries can work, so you can fend off the enemies that are arriving on the scene in their own spaceships. So you're basically defenseless until you can get those turbo lasers up and running and fight off their reinforcements, sort of thing. So, and along the way we see some Separatist droids along the way. So it's getting obvious that the Trandoshans are working with the Separatists and their droid army. And then the third chapter later on down the road again, and it takes place on Kashyyyk, the Wookiee homeworld. Remember Kashyyyk from the Star Wars Holiday Special? We talked about that just yesterday. Anyways, Tarful, the Wookiee clan leader or whatever he is kidnapped by the Trandoshans that we saw in the second chapter there, and your job is to go to Kashyyyk and find him and get him back. So once you land on Kashyyyk, you're fighting Trandoshans and the Separatist droid army, and it's obvious at this point that the two are working hand in hand. So you basically have to make your way over certain areas of Kashyyyk, chasing Tarful down and trying to rescue him. And in the end, it's similar to the last chapter when you had to get those turbo laser batteries up and running on that Republic ship to help defend yourselves. You've got to get some stuff up and running on the surface of Kashyyyk to fight off the Separatist forces. And in the end, Sev, I think, gets separated from you and he kind of goes missing, but Yoda contacts you and says you're needed elsewhere in the war, and it kind of ends on a cliffhanger where Sev has gone missing, but the three of you have to head off on a different mission. So yeah, you're kind of separated from your teammate, and there's another job lying ahead in the future right here came down on high from Yoda himself, right? So you've got to go, and that's kind of how it ends, on that kind of cliffhanger. I'm not sure if they ever did a follow-up to this game or not, and continued on from that storyline, or if that's just the way they chose to end the game. But either way, the game was fantastic. it's a first-person shooter type of game, and it's one of the ones where you can you've got a few different weapons most of the times. You got your main blaster, but then you can pick up other weapons that enemies drop and have some different kind of alternate weapons in there. You can also, different buttons will command your squad mates to do certain things, like plant an explosive here, take a sniper position there, whatever. So you kind of have that bit of command structure to steer your guys to do certain things when the situation calls for it, sort of thing. So, but I found the game was, especially for 2005, it looks really good. I thought it played really well. The only thing that was frustrating about it is that it does, overall the game's, it's challenging, but it's not super difficult as a whole. But there were some sequences along the way where you're just like, you just got stuck for a while at certain points, because it's like, how the hell do I get through this area? Like, there's just too much going on. There's too many guys, and I can't even concentrate on shooting down this stupid flying Genosian while all the other guys are whacking at me, right? And there was just a number of little spots like that along the way that just got me so frustrated. You know me, I like to rage quit, right? Like, I'm always yelling and screaming. There was a number of times where that happened in Republic Commando, but overall, such a fun game, so worth it. And I think it was pretty cheap too, as a digital download for the PS4. So it was, anything Star Wars is a no-brainer for me, but when they're that good and that cheap, again, winning.